Hey guys, it's me. Just wanted to record a little something to sort of get my thoughts out at the minute. Sorry about the lack of face cam. I'm not really that confident showing my face yet, but I wanted to do something anyways because for those who, if you somehow haven't been keeping up with British events so far, we're back in a full lockdown, in Britain. Just announced this evening, just as I'm recording this, and yeah, basically, it's not quite the exact same as March. Like, for instance, the football's still going on, and that was closed down in March, but it's carrying on this time. But for the most part, everything else is like schools are closed. There's been a long debate about that after a while, but they've been closed again finally. Pubs and restaurants and all the shops are closed. People aren't allowed outside to meet their friends or their family, things like that. And yeah, people, safe to say, it's a lot of people aren't happy about it. It's got a lot of people feeling down. There's a lot of negative feelings on social media, especially at the minute, in my sort of circles. So I just sort of wanted to do a video to get a lot of my own thoughts out, so that I don't go insane. Basically, that I've got some sort of outlet, and I feel like I'm being heard, and I'm not screaming at a wall. Even if no one actually turns in the end, it's better than nothing. So as I mentioned before, like March is when this really started to happen. Middle to end of March is when we first went into lockdown. I mean, the whole COVID situation itself has started since about January when we first heard about it in China, but it's really affected us over here. In terms of our livelihood since then, and so it's pretty much almost a year this has been going on for now. And obviously, when something this dramatic happens for such a long period of time, it does become the new normal, and it does get a lot of people feeling that there are a lot of people feeling that it's we're never going to get back to the way things were, and there's always going to be we're going to be either going to be in and out of lockdown, or we're going to be in some form of lockdown constantly, and we're not going to be able to go and see our families and go to football and all that sort of thing. And it is hard not to fall into that mindset. I certainly had it for a long time, particularly when we first went into lockdown in March, because it was just nothing like this had ever happened before, and it just took me completely off guard, and everything that I'd taken for granted was sort of taken away from me. So I understand where that comes from, but like I've had this conversation on places like Twitter, and in hindsight, like it really wasn't the best place to do something like that, because particularly in scenarios like this where emotions are so high, it's very easy for stuff like that to get misconstrued as, oh, my COVID situations are better than yours. You're just a COVID idiot, or things like that. Like, that was never my intent at all. But I completely understand why people in that frame of mind would take it that way. So if you're one of those people, then I can only apologise, because that was never my intention. But the main reason I was trying to get that sort of point across was because, like, I mean, it's as naive as it might sound. I still do hold out hope that we are going to be back to normal relatively soon. As in, I reckon within the next half a year, we are going to start to see measures lifted, and enough vaccine doses rolled out that we can start returning to some form of normality, or at least be, I'd say, at least halfway there by about, say, summertime, because that's when the virus tends to sort of turn down, anyways. Because in terms of the whole, in terms of our own government, I mean, I don't want to get, I'm not going to get political in terms of whether or not I agree with how they've been handling the situation. I mean, if you want an idea of that, just go look at my Twitter account. You'll get a pretty good idea of my thoughts on that. But that's not what I want this video to be about. But there's people out there that say, or the government will do everything they can to keep us locked down. They love having this power over us. They will use any excuse to lock us down and control our lives. I mean, obviously, as a British citizen, I can only speak for Britain. Even though we are technically in the same boat with the global pandemic, we also kind of aren't, because we've all handled things so differently, and we do have different circumstances. So I can only speak for where I live. But in terms of our own government, I really do feel like they've proven time and time again with their actions, stuff like the Eat Out to Help Out, stuff like the not closing schools for so long. They very clearly want us to be working and want us to be out and spending and getting the economy going, for better or for worse. That's always been their intention. So I understand, again, I understand where the fears come from, but I think, looking at it logically, that's not I really can't see this carrying on, in terms of, I don't think they're quite as tyrannical as people are making them out. Like, I feel like it is. it is very there is going to be we are going to be able to recover from this, and it's all about, with the vaccine that we've got. We're lucky to be a country that's developed one of the countries that's developed a vaccine, and also be able to have decent access to it. So, like, this will get rolled. There's all the talks about 2 million cases a week. I think that's probably an underestimate. So it is going to be very likely that it's going to take at least a few months before all the people that need to be vaccinated get vaccinated. And then there are admittedly doubts on how that's actually going to lift restrictions and how long that's going to take, if it's all going to come up at once or if it's going to be incremental like we saw last year. But what the point I'm trying to get across is that we don't know the circumstances, and there were a lot of unknowns out there, and I completely appreciate it. But there is a lot of reason to hope as well, and I feel like that's what a lot of people need nowadays. And I'm not trying to come across as like this big preacher of hope that's gonna make people believe again and this great savior. Like, or I'm just trying to do my bit, because, like, I mean, I'm gonna be fine, honestly. Like, I've said before that I am extremely lucky to work in the industry that I do, that is very, very unaffected by lockdown restrictions in general. Then, I'm going to be able to work from home and get paid a full salary and be able to stay safe. Also, as well, just a very naturally introverted person. I didn't really go outside much before the pandemic either. So, in terms of people most affected, I am definitely way, way down on the list. So don't worry about me, is what I'm trying to say. Like, I'm going to be all right. There's no point in worrying for my sake. That's not me trying to brag. I'm just trying to offer some reassurance on my end. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because there's there's a lot of people out there that I know, on social media, and that, people who I interact with, people who I consider friends, who are doing a lot worse than me. And that's primarily why I wanted to make this video, is to try and address people like them, because I know a lot of people have it much harder than me. How some people still have to work during all this, people like construction workers, and even some teachers and frontline NHS workers and all that lot. Like, I can't even imagine, like, going to work full time, getting up, working 9 till 4 or whatever, and then coming home and not being able to use barely any of your recreational time, or any that would leave the house. Like, I can't imagine what that must be like. So it is very tough. And again, I can't say I understand exactly how it feels, but I understand that it must be difficult. So what basically the point I'm trying to get across here is that, we have to keep believing, and I know that sounds incredibly cheesy, but I think there's reasons to believe, honestly. And I think that I mean, when you are in times like this, and you are quite literally a sitting duck, and you feel like there's nothing you can do, all you can do is just keep living, try and keep living your life. And like I said, I know that's not easier said than done for some people, because, in my case, not that much is really changing for a lot of people. All of a sudden, those things that they were doing to keep themselves going and to enjoy themselves are suddenly taken away from them just like that. So I understand, but, like, again, what other choice do we have? Like, I really, what I'm trying to do is, like, I am trying to offer that voice of optimism. Like, if even though things do seem hopeless, and I completely understand people's fears, things will get back to normal. I don't know when it will happen. I don't know how it will happen. But it's got to. Like, I mean, we are not going to let one little virus beat us completely. No chance. I know a lot of people feel like it has. The fact that we've even locked down in the first place is a sign of defeat, that we've given up, that we should just get on with our lives. Again, I understand the sentiment there, but I feel like there is a middle ground to be taken here, and I feel like that we're so close with this vaccine to getting rid of the most brutal strains of the virus for good. At least here we are. And I don't want to get into the argument of whether or not lockdown is a good thing, but what I'm trying to say is that it can be beneficial to us, and there is light at the end of the tunnel. So that's really all I wanted to say. This is just me rambling my thoughts out there. And yeah, I mean, if any of you follow me on social media at all, my DMs are always open. I'm always free for a chat with anyone. I'm not always the best at giving advice. I'm not always the best at empathizing with everyone's situation, but I can at least be, someone who will listen to you, and you can feel like that you can talk to. And I promise you that whatever you say, your voice will be heard. That I can promise you. That's all I can really offer, and that's about all I've got to say. So I think I'm just gonna stop here before, before I start rambling anymore. So yeah, stay safe, guys, and we are gonna get through this, and things will be back to normal. And if there's one bit of advice I can give in this whole sort of little ramble sort of video, that it's just cling to anything positive that you have, however small, whatever it might be, because there will be something. If we look hard enough, we can always find something positive. So just cling to whatever it is you can, and you'll find that actually tends to take you a lot further than you might think. And there's a very good chance that it will take you all the way through to when all this is over and we can get back to normal. So yeah, that's really all I've got to say. Thanks, guys.